With us now is Ann Coulter, the best-selling author of In Trump We Trust, E Pluribus Awesome. Did I get it right this weekend?
Yes, you did. I'm so proud of you.
Thank you. Thank you. Listen, a few stories to just bounce off you. Lawrence Mann, who's it turns out to be a Dominican national who's been deported twice, pleads guilty to federal fentanyl heroin charges. Here's another one. Immigrant arrested in bludgeoning death of NYU professor pleads self-defense. Okay.
Wow.
Yes, here's another one. Asylum seekers rape murder royals Germany. This is someone from Iraq came into the country and raped and murdered a 14-year-old girl. And just on Thursday in U.S. District Court here in Boston, a judge magistrate, formerly known as a clerk magistrate, as you know, Ann, released a 9 times deported Mexican, 3 times arrested for drunk driving, domestic abuser, drug dealer. ICE begged to release him to them for custody for deportation, and the judge, who used to be a public defender for a serial killer named Stevie Flemmi, cut him loose.
Wow. Somebody's going to die. I mean, that incessant drunk driving, that isn't something that stops. And you'll know who to blame. The next child who's run over.
Yes. Well, she lives in
a head-on accident.
She lives in West Newton, so her chances of having herself or some member of her family killed by a drunk driving illegal are lesser than people who live in more affected communities.
Yeah, well, liberals are happy to pay the cost of mass immigration because they're the ones who are never paying the cost.
Right. Exactly. So, did you see about the Twitter CEO, Ann? You talk about political correctness running amok?
Wait, he apologized for eating at Chick-fil-A?
Yeah.
Why do we hate Chick-fil-A again? I can't keep the hatred straight.
They're Christians. They believe in traditional marriage.
Oh, okay, thank you. That cuts right to the chase.
And I think too, they don't open on Sunday either. So in other words, they give they're committed to family values, right? They give their workers, all of them, 1 day off a week, right?
Wow. And I mean, who would care, apologize for what you want to apologize for, except that this is right at a time when, well, all social media, but Twitter in particular, is getting pretty aggressive about censoring particular viewpoints, not people who are going online or on Twitter, looking for underage kids to molest or looking for banks they can rob or homes they can burglarize, but just people, or even cursing or making personal insults of people. Only Twitterers with the wrong opinions are being either outright banned or shadow banned. I mean, I really loved this decision. I don't know if we talked about it before, but a federal court finding that Donald Trump could not block people on Twitter because Twitter is a public forum. So we have a federal court ruling that Twitter is, which I think it is, with or without this ruling. I was really hoping we could get a little farther down this line and get a lot of courts to hold that because they thought they were sticking it to Donald Trump before any of them realized, we just said Twitter's a public forum. We have to apply First Amendment rules to them now. But unfortunately, the New York Times is on to us. They didn't figure it out as quickly as I did, and probably a lot of people who were worried about being banned from social media. But they had an article last week saying, no, liberals, it's worth being banned by Trump. We can't get Twitter called a public forum because then they won't be able to ban conservatives.
Well, here's the thing, Ann, though. Also this is a badge of honor by these people to be banned by Trump. You've seen these descriptions. You describe yourself on Twitter, and some of them say blocked by Donald Trump. I mean, that's the first item on their curriculum vitae. Their resume. They were blocked by Donald Trump. So now what are they going to do?
I mean, doesn't that solve all problems with the alleged harassment? And again, the people being banned from Twitter are not being banned. They're not having their tweets removed. They're not being disciplined because they've targeted someone for a mean tweet. And if that were the ground, I don't look at my replies, but I hear about them from my friends who do look at them, and not because I'm against looking at them. I'm just busy. Wow! Every time I hear about this, I do go on, or at least I try to. As I say, I've been busy. I try to go on and find the particularly vicious tweets to me, and just immediately report, 10 liberals.
Hey, what about the New York Times?
Which I wouldn't care about. I wouldn't do it. It's purely retaliatory.
What about the New York Times standing by their reporter who was sleeping with her source, who was 35 years older than she was, and she's just getting all these handouts, and then she's tweeting out saying, "I think these leaks are coming from Trumpster lawyers," as she put them, and when she's getting them from her 35-year senior boyfriend,
It reminds me once again. Thank you, Jeff Sessions. Maybe the president could lay off the one guy in the administration who's doing anything good. He's the one who busted her.
Yeah, and apparently they've been running sting operations. That there's speculation. This is how they got Bloomberg on the Deutsche Bank fake news. This is how they got Brian Ross on the fake news about Flynn. They're putting out these fake stories just to see where they go, and they're bagging them one after another. And I got to believe, Ann, that the anti-Trump leaks are going to start drying up rather rapidly now that this guy Wolf is in the dock.
Yeah, well, they really ought to throw the book at him. This is a serious matter, and you punish one person harshly, and that will dry it up. No more. Wrist slaps for this kind of thing.
Yeah, and all the leaks that this guy was sending out, oddly enough, Ann, they were all anti-Trump leaks.
Yeah.
Isn't that funny? Well,
I've noticed that generally about the leaks coming out. I think they have a lot of people to catch. Luckily, we have Jeff Sessions there as Attorney General to go and catch them all.
Are you interested in the North Korean summit, or are you just waiting for
Not at all.
Yeah, I'm
glad. Be more bored.
I'm glad to know that I'm not alone, and I can't wait for Thursday. I want to read the IG's report on the FBI and the Justice Department.
Oh, now that I want to know about. No, it's very frustrating. I turned in my next book at 3 a.m. last night, and so I was really excited today. I could finally catch up on the news. I've totally withdrawn myself, and I turned on TV. Oh my gosh, this is worse than, I don't know, a royal wedding. Who cares? And actually, I'm a little bit annoyed with Trump for spending so much time, so much effort on something that really does not have any bearing on our lives. This is very important to the South Koreans. I'm sure it's important to the North Koreans. It's very important to China.
And
not
Japan.
our problem.
Yeah. Yeah. No, he's, he's trying to, I don't blame him for trying to do something.
Change the subject, I think, and to look like a great statesman and to get a little good press. You know how he'd get a lot of great press is if he'd build that wall.
I knew we would get back to the Annie OneNote on the wall, and I don't blame you, Ann. I want the wall built too.
That was his OneNote, which won him the presidency. I mean, don't act like this is just one of many things he said.
No, but again, though, I think don't you think things are moving in his favor? I mean, in terms of public opinion. Granted, he did win the presidency basically on building the wall and illegal immigration out of control. But don't you think even more people are coming around? I mean, look what's happening in Orange County, California, where there's basically a revolt against the Democrat establishment, and not just in Orange County, all across California.
Yes, as for the Republicans, I was just, in fact, looking at the polls. They were looking pretty good about a week ago. And I think it's mostly because of the just insane, maniacal opposition to Trump, like this Robert De Niro thing that is just pushing more and more normal people to say, okay, screw you, I'm voting Republican. But in the past week, Republicans have been really falling in the polls. Now let's think. What happened in the last week? What's been going on? Oh yes, for some reason the Republican Congress does what it always does. What's the stupidest thing they could possibly do? They're making a huge effort to pass amnesty.
I know.
And suddenly they're collapsing. And man, Howie, I want to barely hang on to the House and lose every one of those traitorous Republicans. I am so sick of this 20 years from now, unless, I mean, as I say in Adios America, with this amnesty push until we get a wall, this is like what George Bush said about the terrorists. We have to be right. We have to be perfect every time. We have to keep fighting this same fight every term of Congress. They only have to win once, and then the country's over, and there's no point to anything you or I do. The country becomes California. It's over. They only have to be right, not right once, but they have to win once. We have to keep winning. We have to keep fighting the same battle. If we keep winning this battle, it looks like you and I will be talking about this on radio 20 years from now. There will be another effort by Republicans in Congress to push an amnesty after we've just elected a president who ran on promising to build a wall.
I know. I watched Bob Goodlate, who's he's pretty good a guy on the Spygate scandal. He's the chairman of one of the committees in the House from Virginia, and he was on with Maria Bartiromo, and he was saying all the right things. He sounded like Devin Nunes, you know. And then she says, "Oh, and what about DACA?" And all of a sudden, you're right. He sounded like Luis Gutierrez. I couldn't take it. I had to turn it off.
Well, I will say, and for any of your listeners, I know you have very smart and active listeners, it does make a huge difference to call your congressman. If you live in a district where there's actually a Democrat also, they have to win re-election, but mostly a Republican. So many of my friends who have never called Congress before, well, let me say a handful of them, I haven't talked to that many since I've been working on the book, but they've told me they have Republicans and they vote for Republicans in vulnerable districts, and one of my friends just told me, I just got off the phone with him, he called up and said, very politely, I don't want to take a lot of your time, but if Faso votes for this bill, not only will I vote against anyone or for anyone running against him, I will never vote for him again. I've never called an office before, and I have a lot of friends who aren't going to bother calling you, and they're going to do the same thing. And they have caller ID. They know where you're calling from. They know if you're really from the district. Those things make a difference.
I don't understand, just from a tactical point of view, what Republicans think is the upside for legalizing
I agree
millions.
with you. I keep wondering, do none of them have an aide who can come in and say, I know you've been looking at those polls by Frank Sherry on how immigration is hugely popular, but here's an alternative poll. Here's something else we've found over and over and over again. Or is it just because they want the money? They are so wedded to the Koch brothers' money. As I was saying last week on Lou Dobbs, whenever we get to this precipice, which we have to get to, every term of Congress, are they going to destroy the country? Just over and over and over again. I'm getting to the point that now I'm just thinking, okay, well, if they wreck the country, since they're gonna do it one of these times if we don't get a wall, what fun will I have in life anymore? And I have a few things that I'm going to enjoy. But one of them is watching, people like the Koch brothers and the Chamber of Commerce companies try to survive in a country that's run by Nancy Pelosi,
right,
and what's his name, Ellis from Minnesota.
Keith
You are
Ellison.
going to get the craziest woke social justice warriors. Good luck operating in that business environment, and I'm just going to sit back and say, ha, ha, ha.
Well, bitter tears of laughter, Ann. Bitter tears.
I'd prefer to save the country.
All right. Ann Coulter, congratulations on finishing your book. We'll talk more about it next week or the week after when we get back with you. But thanks for being with us here on the Howie Carr Show.
Good to talk to Howie.
Bye-bye.
We will make America great again.